What's going on? This is Blaine with From Riff and Tone. Today I wanted to put together a video of 5 things guitarists can do when they're having writer's block. This is something that pretty much everyone is going to experience during your guitar journey, especially when you first start, because you're still trying to learn how to write music. So you're going to have a lot of trouble writing songs. But even as you progress and you start learning, there's a lot of times you feel like you're in a rut and everything you pick up may sound like something you've already written before, or maybe it just doesn't click. It doesn't sound right. You can't come up with anything for whatever reason. So this has happened to me a billion times. I mean, a couple times a month, I think I have issues where I'll pick up a guitar and just cannot write anything for days. It'll go days straight. So these are 5 things that I do whenever I have these issues that will help me get those creative juices flowing. So the first one is just listen to music. A lot of times for me, so I'm a metal guitar player. I mostly play metal, but I'll start listening to really whatever I want, but typically it's bands that are metal bands. And I'll go on a kick, like for example, I was on a Death kick, and I really like Chuck's playing style, and I like a lot of the riffs he writes. And just by me listening to Death, I probably listened to just about Death for a whole month straight. And I wrote so many riffs just because I was constantly inspired by a lot of the stuff that he was doing. You know, and it was nothing in particular where I'd hear a riff and say, oh, I got to write a riff like that. It was just complete inspiration from the music in general. So I would ride in my car and listen to Death, and by the time I got home, I picked up a guitar. It's like it got these juices flowing to where I was just in a writing mindset, in a very creative mindset. So that's one big thing that you could do. Another is learn licks and songs and riffs in other genres. So like I said, I'm a metal guitar player, but if I'm having a lot of trouble and I feel like I'm in this rut, what I'll go ahead and do is I like jazz a lot. I like jazz guitar a lot, which is kind of ironic because I'm not the biggest, I don't really sit down and listen to jazz often, but I like watching jazz guitar players. There's a lot of very talented guys, and they just, being able to improvise and come up with some of the stuff that they come up with is just very inspiring to me. So guys like George Benson, Wes Montgomery, I'll go and listen to some of the stuff that they come up with, and I'll go and learn it. I'll go on YouTube and watch a live video of them playing, and then I'll try and figure out what they're playing, and just by me listening and figuring it out, I start seeing patterns, and I start seeing things that I would have never thought of just by playing the stuff that I normally play. And this really, I've written a lot of stuff to where it's just based upon some of the stuff I'm learning from jazz. And jazz is just one example. I mean, it could be blues, it could be anything you want that you have an interest in. You just haven't put the time into it because maybe you're a rock and roll player. You play rock, but you're like, man, I really want to kind of learn some country. There's a lot of great country guitar players. Go out there and learn it. This will definitely open you up as a guitar player, and it'll give you a lot more tools in your arsenal. And you'd be surprised at some of the stuff you can pull into. If you want to listen to country and you're a rock player, you can bring that into your style and put your little twist on it, and it'll also help you create your own sound that's going to be different than every other rock player out there, So that's another thing you can do. Another thing is jam with a friend, especially a guitar player, but even if you jam with a drummer or a bass player, you can pick up on things. But I have an example where actually recently I was kind of having some writer's block. I just wasn't able to write for whatever reason. And I jammed with one of my buddies, and he brought a riff. He said, hey, check out this riff I have. Started playing it, and I was like, okay. Next thing I know, I wrote a riff to complement that riff. 5 hours later, we had a song completely written and recorded that day. Things just kind of snowballed, from one riff to the next. So that's something that in that moment, by myself, I would not have been able to do. I just wasn't in the mindset. But I got really influenced by what he had written, and it just made me start thinking outside of the box that I had myself in at the time. You know, so that helped me out a lot. So another thing that kind of goes, that you can do that kind of goes with the learning other genres in a way, is just learning scales and learning chords. I don't know much theory, almost none. So for me, this is really beneficial because I already don't have this vast amount of knowledge on scales and chords and whatnot. So if ever I'm having writer's block and I say, oh, let me go learn a few different chords, I'll just go and look. And now it's basically like new information to me for the most part. So it just opens up your eyes and your ears to different sounds, you know, and you may play a chord that you've never played before and you say, damn, that shit sounds good. And you say, well, what's going to go good with this? And then you kind of mess around, or you look it up, say what's going to be in this key. And then you play that and you're like, man, this goes. And then next thing you know, you're kind of writing a song, writing some licks based upon this new chord progression that you discovered, or a new scale, you know. For me, a lot of my licks, I'll do that with, I'll look at a scale and just kind of start messing around with it. And it puts you, like I said earlier, it puts you outside of the box that you have been keeping yourself in. Just by default, you kind of fall in these grooves that you get used to whenever you play. So if you're learning new things, it opens up new doors for you, you know, and you take that and then you put that in your style. And eventually it gets bigger and bigger of all the tools you have in your toolbox. So then the last thing that I would suggest whenever you're having writer's block is actually to just take a break. You know, over my years, I've been very, I almost forced myself to practice a lot. But when it comes to writing, I don't force myself. If I feel it's not happening, I may practice technique, or I may just take a break for a couple days from guitar in general, you know, because technique is almost like, to me, it's kind of like working out, right? A lot of times you don't feel like working out, but you know it's the right thing to do. You know it's going to help you, so you just do it anyways. That's how I feel with technique. So I'll sit there with a metronome, or sit there and just practice alternate picking, sweep picking, whatever it is, and just kind of force myself to do it. However, writing it's a creative thing, you know, and in order to be creative, you have to be in that mindset. And a lot of times forcing yourself to do it, you're not going to come up with shit, honestly, most of the time. So sometimes just taking a break and stepping away, you take the pressure off yourself to write something, and you get in a different frame of mind. So then maybe you take 3 days off, and then when you come back, you're gonna have a totally refreshed mindset, you know, and then you may be able to write something. May still take a little while, and then you can try all the other tips that I just mentioned. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of put some things that have helped me over the years as far as writing goes, because writer's block is gonna be inevitable. Especially somebody who's, you know, if you're a beginner guitar player, you know, this is stuff that I don't remember anyone ever telling me to do this or do that when you're having writer's block. I kind of figured this stuff out on my own through trial and error. So hopefully, you know, you could take something from this and it'll help you escape some of the pitfalls that I had over the years. And hopefully you can write a bunch of killer songs now.